Yo, what's up guys? So I'm just going to go through a trade that I actually took on Friday, right? Gave me about 130 pips, 230 pips, right? In just 8 hours, right? This is actually the trade, right? And I think you can actually see the trade setup and the signal that I actually shared with some of the guys that I actually analyze with, right? When I was taking the position, right? And this is actually the result of the trade that I took, right? 230 pips in just 8 hours, right? So I'm going to do top to down analysis of that trade, right? How do you map up such a trade? How do you analyze and how do you get to take that trade, right? Everything combined. So it's more like a summary of concepts that I've been teaching on this channel so that you guys can be able to take the trade, right? I have had questions, people asking me, how then do you drop to lower time frames and get to take the trades, right? I'm going to explain it right here, right? I did some analysis on the previous video, right, where I was explaining from the daily time frame, and people were just asking, but if you take the trade on the daily time frame, the stop loss is going to be big. Then I say yes, right? So how do you work that out? Then I just said you go to lower time frames. So I'm going to show you how you actually move to the lower time frames and get to take the trades on the lower time frame. That means M15 going all the way to M1 time frame, right? So let me just get straight to it, right? So what I'll do, I'll actually remove what's on my chart now, right? Let me remove everything, then I'll do the analysis from scratch, right? Okay, so what you have to do on top to down analysis, the first thing you should actually go on, your monthly chart mostly, just to do some mappings there so that you see where price is moving from and heading towards, right? So usually structure, we say the market is actually fractal, right? On every other time frame, you're going to see your structure very clearly, right? So if you look at this chart, it created a high point right there, right? That's the highest point that it created, right? So if price is actually moving from a high point, what's destination, right? Usually it will be heading towards the next low point that you're seeing there, right? Okay, so we see that price was actually at that high at that point, right? And it's actually dropping, going to this low, right? If you scroll back a little bit, right, if I'm to do this, right, you see price was coming from those lows, right? So I believe this move is still a corrective move up to this one, up to this demand, right? Close to that demand, then we start rising to create new highs, because basically it's in an uptrend, right? Okay, so on a monthly chart, this is what we have, right? So the next following the smaller waves that we have there, we'll get to see them if you move to lower time frame, right? Because this is a single wave from that high to that low. It's just a corrective move, right? But the moment you go to the weekly time frame and daily time, you get to see smaller waves, right? What you call minor structures, right? Structure inside another structure, right? So let's just go to the weekly and get to see how the weekly will be like, right? So if you actually get to the weekly, this is top down analysis. If you get to the weekly, you will see that price here, after breaking this low, right, it had created this this supply zone, right? This is the untested order block that we have talked about, untested order blocks, right? Someone can actually ask, wasn't this a BMS, right? Then I'll actually answer you easy that this wasn't a BMS. It's a fake BMS. It was a liquidity grab. They were just grabbing liquidity from these lows, so there is no BMS there, meaning that this supply zone is not so valid, right? The supply zone that is solid is actually this one, right? And this can be supported by imbalances that we see, right? Let me do this. By imbalances that we see, right? If you had to look to the left, right, above this side, you see that with some imbalance there. Actually, there was a gap between this candlestick and that candlestick. There is a gap there, right? You can see with the close of this candle and the open of that candle. So there is actually a gap there, and that gap has to be filled, right? So this gap had to be filled, right? So one, we have imbalances. Two, we have a gap, right? So that gap had to be filled, right? Because my price then was around this region, right? My price then was around this region. This is where the price was. This is where the price was before that trade, right? This is where the price was, right? Okay, let me remove this. It makes sense, right? So I knew that this had to be closed, those things had to be closed, and my price actually has to move to that high first. It had to move to that high, then come down to break even these lows and continue going down, satisfying the longer time frame objective, that is the monthly time frame analysis, right? So that have been said, let me go to the, okay, right, that have been said, right, let's drop down, right? So from the weekly, this is what we have, right? Then on the daily, I want to explain something on the daily chart. There's a video that I posted explaining some things about the daily time frame, right? Okay, sorry, I was mistaken. The point was there, right? So on the daily time frame, this is where we were, right? On the daily time frame, this is where we were, right? I will just talk about candlesticks, right? What we're seeing bullish momentum all the way, right? And on Thursday, this was the Thursday candle. You can see with the that is right at the bottom, right? Thursday, 13 October, right? This candlestick was bullish. It actually engulfed this bearish candlestick, right? The consolidation, but you can see the bearish candlestick didn't have enough momentum to push the market upwards, right? To push the market downwards, right? Telling us that we just have weak PS. It's just a consolidation. Then the following day, that was Wednesday, on Thursday, we had an engulfing candle breaking that high like that, right? So we knew that PS have already taken over and they are continuing, right? I always say to my guys, right, if you have a daily candlestick on a Thursday, Friday you just expect a bullish candlestick again. Sorry, if you have a bearish on Thursday, Friday you expect another bearish. If you have a bullish, Friday you expect a bullish, right? So I believe that if I close bullish, the following day I should close bullish, right? Unless there are some supply or demand zones to the what? To the left. So in this case, I was just expecting bulls only, right? So that's the analysis that I had on my D1. So on moving from D1, I go straight to H1 usually, but you can go to H4, but I usually go straight to H1, map my analysis, my structure from there, right? Because already I know that my previous day was bullish, so I'm looking for bulls. I'm just looking for a PMS that I'll see on H1, right? So on going to H1, this is what I had, right? So on going to H1, this is what I had on the day, right? Price had actually broken this one, this high. Price had actually broken this one, this high, and we call this what? A PMS. Everyone knows this. I believe everyone knows this, right? This is a BMS, breaking market structure, right? So we had a BMS there. After that BMS, we are so interested about the origin of that move, right? The origin of this BMS, we can see that it actually originated from this one, from these lows, right? So we just go there and mark our demand zone using the order block that we're seeing right at that point, right? The lowest order block that we had, of course, it was this one with that week, right? This week actually handed some liquidity from this one, so we can see, or we can tell that there's some liquidity that was grabbed right before the move actually went up, right? So I can take this one as my order block. Let me just mark that region using that one, right? I can even decide to use this one, but let me just pick that. They're just covering the same zone, right? So what I was waiting for, I was waiting for my price to correct back into this zone, right? It was like almost like this. This is the setup, like we are seeing there, right? This is the setup that I had, right? So as price was coming into the zone, now I was taking a closer look into everything, into what was happening. Let me just put a time zone, a session break, right? Session breaks that will show me a dates, right? So this was the Thursday, right? So Thursday price is correcting, it's coming into a demand zone. So as price is approaching a demand zone, I move now to lower time frames and investigate the structure that is going to come there, right? So on lower time frames, I had to go on M15. Then on M15, I look at that structure, right? I went to M15, then I had to go on M5 again, right? So let me just go to M5 straight to just lessen the video, right? The length of the video, right? Okay, so on M5, what is it that I'm looking for? I'm looking at my structure, either a church or the first BMS after the church, right? Then I'll get to take my what? My trades, right? And usually I will take my trades either in the London session or in the New York session, right? So in this case, let's look at the structure. So price was actually coming down. Let me try to draw the waves here, right? Okay, this is what was happening. Price started to slow down as it was approaching this region, right? That's the first sign of a reversal. If price starts to slow down as you're approaching a demand zone, right, you start to make deep analysis, right? You start to suspect. So here it was failing to actually break this high, coming back, failing to break that high, but finally they broke that high, right? That was more like a consolidation. They broke that high. That's a BMS, and they corrected. right? Like that, right? So what we saw there, all right, let me just do this. I made a mistake there. Let me just leave it there. All right. So as price tapped my zone, I saw a BMSC, breaking market structure, right? And that happened with the first breaking structure. If I'm looking at M5, right? And that first BMS, we said it's a church, right? If you want to know the difference, you go to the previous videos, right, where I taught this concept, right? So I saw a church. So after seeing a church, what I do, I just go to my demand zone that I have there, right? Okay, so this is the demand zone that we had there, right? So now my trade, where did I actually take my trade, right? So after the church, I just waited, or that's when I did that projection for the long trade, right? That's when I did that projection. I just came and covered this region, right? Then I did my projection all the way up to those zones, right? So I closed my first trade at around 150 pips. Then the second one, I just left a runner. I actually have a runner right now that is still running. I expect the price will continue going up since we are not yet in the monthly demand supply zone, on the weekly supply zone, right? So basically, this is the steps that I actually took on taking these trades, right? So from the higher time frames, we do our structure H1, H4, D1, weekly, monthly, those higher time frames. When it comes to entries, right, when price comes into your order blocks, higher time frame order blocks, you move to your lower time frames, either M1, I can use M1, M5 and M15. Those are the low time frames that I use to take trades. So inside the higher time frame zone of interest, or POI, right, that's where I look for my church or my first BMS, right, and I take my trades from there, right? So on the lower time frames, what I'm trying to look at, I think I'll expand on this on the other videos, right? So on the lower time, what I'm looking for exhaustion of price. Is price approaches my what? My zone of interest. Look at that exhaustion. Price is starting to exhaust, right? It's now forming higher, it's now forming lower lows and lower highs that are actually close to each other. No big impulses, right? So that's the other side, right? Then the other side that can actually give you confidence, right? If you look at impulse moves, this impulse move to that high, there are fewer candlesticks. Then the corrective move back there, many candlesticks. So corrective move, like I explained on the other video, there's a video for that, right? Corrective moves usually have many candlesticks. Impulse moves short, fewer candlesticks, right? So basically, guys, this was the move and this was the trade. Hope you actually learned something. I believe next week we're just going to make money in the same manner that we made last week. Hopefully it was a good week for you. I believe next week again it'll be a good week for you, right? Like I've always said, if you have a problem with any video that I'm going to share on this YouTube channel, you can always inbox me or come to our WhatsApp groups as Sniper X Forex Empire. We can reply you from there, right? We can assist you from there, right? But if you so few that you can be answered on the comment section, you just place a comment, we'll answer you from there. You can come to my Telegram or my WhatsApp, you can ask your questions there, then we'll get to reply you there. Hopefully you learned something, right? So this is what we have, right? And I believe we're still on our way up to the what? To the monthly objective, right? Why I'm still holding this trade, I still expect my price to come into that zone. Or maybe let me go on the weekly, right? On the weekly, like I've said, I still expect my price to come in that zone. So my target should be extended to those zones, to the low of that order block that I'm seeing here, that I used to mark this supply zone, to that order block. So I still expect price to push. There's still some imbalance there that has to be closed. Obviously they'll be closed maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Then I'll get to close my trades from there, right? So hopefully you learn something, you got something. Thank you guys for your time. See you on the next video, right? Take care.